Big shout out to today's video sponsor, Linsol. Check out their fantastic deals in the links in the video description. As a reviewer, there is something magical about finding a product you believe so strongly in. Spoiler alert, if you have $200 to spend on an all-round IEM package, my money's going on these. The Tangzu Wu collab with Hawaii bad boy called the Heyday Edition. Yep, even better than the Timeless AE in my opinion, and that might come as a surprise to you, so find out why I believe these to be an absolute killer in my upcoming review. Stay tuned. Hey guys, I'm Ryan Thomas, and whilst I may have become an audiophile, I'm still by no means an expert, so please read and watch other reviews along with mine. This is my 15th or 16th pair at this point, so we're getting there. I'm just breaking in the old noggin. However, what's become abundantly clear is that the Hawaii bad boy collabs seem to be doing really well, and that actually Bad Guy Good Audio Reviews, the guy behind Hawaii bad boy, is a really good reviewer and is an expert in this field. Tangzu released the Wu a little while ago now, and the Heyday Edition is the collaboration with Hawaii bad boy. He doesn't just ask them to change a few things in the tune, he actually does go deep into the IEM, and is pretty committed if you ask me. And his hard work has absolutely paid off, so let me show you why I think this is such a good package. Firstly, these things come in at $199, so it's not the most expensive, but it's also in no way cheap. That's some serious money, but it's also not far off what you'd be paying for AirPods Pros or the equivalent Sonys or equivalent over-the-ear wireless headphones, stuff like that. It's not unknown for the average person to spend that much on a headphone or earphone, so I don't think it's unreasonable for an IEM to be this price. Let's start off with what you get in the incredibly well presented box. Side note, mine came with this cool mouse pad thing, which I'm not sure comes with every unit, but it is really cool. You get a really nice pleather hard case which has compartments for the IEMs in there, which is nice because these things are metal and keeping them from scratching is important. The zip is large but also of pretty good quality. You get a selection of silicone tips, and even the ones that say foam are silicone. Not really sure why that is. It would have been nice to see foams at this price point, but it's not the end of the world. Only 2 or 3 pairs of IEMs I've ever had have come with foams, and if you really wanted to, you could put your own ones in on these, so it's not the end of the world, but it is something I would have liked to see at this price point. It is worth noting that I did use the standard ear tips in my review period, so the ones that came with it, the silicones, and also I used a mixture of my Fio K5 Pro and also the Apple and Google respective dongles, which I found to be pretty good benchmarks. The cable is an absolute thing of beauty. It's a baby blue 4-core cable that's fairly thick but rather supple in a way that the 7Hz Timeless AE cable just isn't. It's a lovely thickness, it's a great cable. It terminates on one end in a standard 2-pin, so you could swap it out or use it on other IEMs, and the other a big quick disconnect. And I mean, with the connectors on, this thing is absolutely huge. It's the biggest quick disconnect that I've ever seen on IEMs. It looks remarkable, it looks unbelievable, and actually kind of dangerous because you'd think that maybe the connector would snap off the end with that much weight and leverage going onto it, but I never found it to be a particular issue, though I am quite careful with my stuff. You get 3.5mm but also the balanced 2.5 and 4.4 connectors. Unfortunately I don't have anything balanced here to check those out with and really try them out, so I was using 3.5 the entire time. So the included accessories are an absolute dub, but what about the IEMs themselves, because they're important. The Wu Heydays are metal, meaning that they're really cold when you first put them in your ears, which is quite a nice feeling, but not one that everyone is going to love. The design on the faceplate is subtle, and the whole IEM has gone like a sort of dull silvery grey. It's very metallic looking, it's very shiny. You kind of have to polish them if you want them to look good all the time. And the idea is that all the colour is in the cable, and it's a very nice colour. They sit well in my ears, though they are a fairly shallow fit, meaning they're not going to fit everyone's ears perfectly. And without a good set of foams, you do run the risk of them falling out of your ear. I never had that problem with the included tips with my ears, but your mileage may vary. One thing to note is that these things are fairly big, not huge, but fairly big, and they are particularly heavy because they are made out of metal. They're not the heaviest on the market, it's not like they're crazy, but it is worth mentioning is I've used a lot of the acrylic and plastic shelled IEMs recently, and compared to the Heydays, they're really light. They feel like there's nothing in your ear versus the Heydays that feel quite substantial, and they never did like pull on my ear or create any kind of physical fatigue. It's just something to mention. The single 14.5mm planar sits inside these things, which means a few things. You get a fairly big sound, plenty of low end, and actually cohesion because there aren't multiple different kinds of drivers trying to work together. It's just one big driver. The frequency response curve has been flattened somewhat compared to the standard model, which means you get a warm sound, but nowhere near the amount of low end or really crisp highs that you did with the previous model. You do get a good amount of bass though, some solid sub bass with clean upper mids and treble, but with a slightly dulled out mid-range, which means that male vocals can get a little bit lost at times. Not totally, and it's not the worst I've heard. I've had a lot of lower ends or gaming headphones and stuff that do a worse job than this. But what I'm saying is you don't get that crazy detail retrieval, and also you're slightly missing out on those mids there. It's not a completely flat curve to say. But I did mention smoothness, and this is a theme with these IEMs in terms of the sound. I mean, spoiler alert, I've been reviewing the Oracle Mark IIs as well, and that video will be coming soon, the $589 IEM, and there's a lot more detail with those, but they're not as smooth as the Heydays. This is the smoothest sounding upper mid and treble that I've ever heard, to the point where some songs that I've heard before a million times sound different, and they sound impactful, and they make me a bit emotional. I've had an emotional response listening to the Heydays. That's something I can't say about a lot of IEMs, and I think puts a pretty good mark on them to say. These are 100% staying in my collection. I mean, one of the tests that I tend to do is I'll play the opening Finding Nemo song, I think it's called, I'll put the name of it up on the screen, I actually can't remember, but essentially it's like the first film I ever watched as a kid, and it always brings up a slight emotional response in me because it's just nostalgia really, and that film is a really good film. I watched it a lot as a kid, so it brings up those memories, and that is a powerful thing. But I've never sat there and actually teared up properly in a way that I did with the Heydays. There's just such a beautiful smoothness to them, and I'm sure there are other IEMs on the market that do that I haven't tried out yet, so don't see this as me saying these are the greatest IEMs on the market, because that's certainly not the case, but it is a really beautiful sounding one. Whether you listen to orchestral or sort of just beautiful music, really slow, it's a different kind of response and a different kind of experience that I haven't had with others. Now, I'm not going to gush on it for long because the sound is this is a unique IEM to me. There is basically no soundstage, which might sound like a bad thing, and it can be depending on what you're doing with the IEM and what kind of sound that you like. Again, sound is subjective. So let me give you an example. Billie Eilish's Bad Guy, really, really popular song. She's whispering in your ear in an ASMR kind of way. It's just part of the song at the beginning. And it's uncanny how close she sounds to your ears with these because of the lack of soundstage. It literally sounds like she's in your ear essentially. And that can be a bit of a turn off for some. Some people really don't like that. They want big soundstage. And I certainly want a little bit more than what this offers. But the main issue I had with the soundstage, or lack thereof, is that when I was trying to play Counter-Strike, I could hear footsteps really far away, but it sounded like they were right next to me. And that might sound like a great thing. Oh, he's cheating, he can hear through walls or through buildings. What it really means is it throws off your sense of direction. I was sat there, I felt like I was having a migraine or a headache or something. It was horrible, it was not a good experience. And I thought maybe Windows had messed up my interface sound, so I swapped in the 7Hz Zeros, which I continue to use as an eSport IEM, even with £200 or £300 sets sitting around. And there was no problem with the 7Hz Zeros. So it's 100% a Tangzu issue. I'm not sure what's going on, whether it's hardware or it's tuning or anything like that, but it really did not feel like a good experience. So maybe beware of this. It's kind of crazy how I went from loving them to putting that out, within a matter of seconds. And I still think they're a really good option. But if you really want Soundstage or you play a lot of esports, maybe think differently about the purchase. And that pretty much rounds out my review. So I really enjoyed the Tangzu Wu Heyday. They'll be staying in my collection for as long as I can possibly keep them. They're really beautiful. If you want a truly beautiful, just smooth, easy to listen to IEM, these are wonderful. But if you want something with Soundstage, look away immediately. And if you play a lot of Counter-Strike, Valorant, Overwatch, anything like that, these could give you a migraine. So yeah. Massive thanks to Linsol for providing today's unit. I will leave the links to them in the video description. Of course, this is a sponsored video, but it's in no way a sponsored review, in the sense that they don't pay me to say nice things about the product. They just say, can we put a link in the description? Sure, whatever. And I'll give an honest review. Leave likes, comments, subscriptions, all that stuff. I will catch you in the next video. I've been Ryan Thomas. Cheers.